The evening sun cast long shadows through the windows of Mike's diner as Lily and her mother walked through the door. The familiar smell of fried potatoes and grilled burgers welcomed them like an old friend. For Lily, a 16-year-old with cerebral palsy, this Friday evening ritual was the highlight of her week. "Table for two?" asked the hostess, a woman with kind eyes who had been seating them at the same corner booth every Friday for the past 3 years. "Yes, please," Lily's mother replied with a warm smile. "Our usual spot if it's available." Lily gripped her walking frame tightly as she made her way through the restaurant. Each step was a small victory, her legs moving in a pattern that had taken years of physical therapy to achieve. Her body sometimes had ideas of its own, making movements jerky and unpredictable, but her determination never wavered. The diner buzzed with the usual Friday night crowd, families celebrating the end of the work week, couples on dates and groups of friends catching up over plates of the diner's famous onion rings. The clinking of silverware against plates and the hum of conversation created a comfortable backdrop as Lily and her mother settled into their booth. "Chocolate milkshake today?" her mother asked, already knowing the answer. It was their tradition: savory food first, followed by the rich, creamy milkshake that Mike's was known for throughout the county. "Yes," Lily replied, her voice working to form the simple word. Speaking required concentration, her brain sending signals that her mouth didn't always follow precisely, but those who took the time to listen found her thoughts as clear and bright as anyone else's. A waitress approached their table, notepad in hand. "Good evening, ladies. It's nice to see you both again." She spoke directly to Lily, not just to her mother, as many people did. This was one of the reasons they kept coming back to Mike's. "The usual orders tonight?" "Actually," Lily's mother began, "we might try something different tonight. Lily saw a cooking show about Southwestern cuisine this week, and we've been talking about trying new flavors." "What would you recommend?" The waitress tapped her pen against her chin thoughtfully. "Well, the chef just added a new chicken dish with a mild green chili sauce that's getting rave reviews. It comes with those sweet potato fries that Lily likes." Lily nodded enthusiastically, her face lighting up at the suggestion. "That sounds perfect," her mother said. "We'll take 2 of those, please. And water for now. We're saving room for milkshakes later." As the waitress walked away, Lily's mother reached across the table and gave her daughter's hand a gentle squeeze. These moments of normalcy were precious. At school, in therapy, and even during quick trips to the grocery store, Lily was often defined first by her disability. But here, in their Friday sanctuary, she was just a teenager enjoying dinner with her mom. The bell above the door chimed as a new group entered the restaurant. 6 young adults in their early 20s dressed for a night out, their laughter spilling into the space before them. The hostess led them to a large table not far from where Lily and her mother sat. "Can you believe Professor Harkins is making us rewrite the entire assignment?" One of the young men complained loudly as they passed by Lily's table. "My weekend is totally shot now. At least you have his class in the afternoon," a young woman in a bright blue top responded. "Some of us have to drag ourselves there at 8 in the morning." Their energy was infectious, and Lily found herself smiling at their banter. She had dreams of college, too, of studying literature or maybe history. Her mind was sharp and curious even when her body struggled to keep up. The waitress returned with their waters, placing a straw in Lily's glass at just the right angle so she could reach it easily. These small acts of thoughtfulness never went unnoticed. "So," her mother said, taking a sip of her water, "tell me more about that book you finished yesterday. You said the ending surprised you?" Lily nodded, taking her time to form her response. The chick character everyone thought was the villain. "Wasn't?" She paused, gathering her thoughts and her words. "It was about not judging people too quickly. That's often true in life too, isn't it?" her mother replied. "People are rarely exactly what they seem on the surface." The conversation between mother and daughter flowed naturally as they discussed books, shows they'd watched that week, and plans for the upcoming weekend. Lily's speech required patience, but her insights were worth waiting for. Their food arrived, steaming and aromatic, the green chili sauce adding a vibrant color to the dish. Lily's mother discreetly cut Lily's chicken into bite-sized pieces, a help that Lily accepted with the practicality of someone who knew her own strengths and limitations. At the nearby table, the group of young adults had become increasingly loud, their second round of drinks loosening their inhibitions. One of the young men kept glancing over at Lily, his expression hard to read. When Lily lifted her fork to her mouth and some rice fell back to her plate, he nudged his friend and whispered something. Lily pretended not to notice. She was used to the stares, the whispers. Her mother had taught her that other people's discomfort was their problem, not hers. Still, it stung, especially on their special Friday night. "This sauce is amazing," her mother commented, deliberately drawing Lily's attention back to their meal. "We should try to recreate it at home." Lily nodded, but her enjoyment of the meal had dimmed slightly. She took a sip of water, but her hand jerked unexpectedly, spilling some down her chin. As she reached for her napkin, she heard a muffled laugh from the nearby table. Her mother's eyes flashed with a protective fire, but she kept her voice calm. "Do you want to try my sweet potato fries? I think they put some kind of spice on them that makes them even better than usual." "Mom," Lily said quietly. "It's okay. I know they're looking." Her mother's face softened with a mixture of pride and sadness. At 16, Lily had developed a tough skin, but no parent ever gets used to seeing their child hurt. "I know, sweetheart, but their rudeness says everything about them and nothing about you." The restaurant had filled up completely now, the Friday rush in full swing. Families with young children, elderly couples, and groups of friends occupied nearly every table. The noise level had risen with the crowd, creating a blanket of sound that gave Lily and her mother a sense of privacy, despite the open space. From the kitchen came the sound of sizzling grills and calling orders, punctuated by occasional bursts of laughter from the staff. The smells of different dishes mingled in the air. The spice of the Southwest chicken, the sweetness of apple pie, the rich aroma of coffee being brewed for the after-dinner crowd. Lily took another bite of her meal, determined not to let a few thoughtless people ruin their evening. She had faced far greater challenges than this. The weekly dinner tradition had begun 3 years ago after a particularly difficult surgery and months of recovery. That first dinner out had been a celebration of her progress, a step back toward normal life. "Do you remember," her mother said, seemingly reading Lily's thoughts, "that first time we came here after your surgery? You were so nervous about using your walker in public." Lily smiled at the memory. "And now, I don't even think about it. You've come so far. I'm so proud of you." The sincerity in her mother's voice warmed Lily more than any meal could. At the neighboring table, one of the young women in the group seemed to notice her friend's behavior. She frowned slightly as one of the young men made an exaggerated movement with his hand, clearly mimicking Lily's involuntary motions. She said something to him that Lily couldn't hear, but his dismissive shrug suggested he didn't see anything wrong with his actions. An older couple at a table nearby had also noticed what was happening. The woman caught Lily's eye and offered a sympathetic smile. Small kindnesses like this often balanced out the cruelty of others. Lily and her mother continued their meal, talking about an upcoming school project and plans for the summer. They had learned long ago that the best response to negativity was to simply live their lives with dignity. As they finished their main course, the waitress returned to their table. "How was everything?" she asked. "Delicious," Lily replied, the word coming out clearly this time. "Wonderful. And are we still on for those chocolate milkshakes?" Lily nodded enthusiastically. The chocolate milkshake was more than just a dessert. It was the crowning glory of their Friday tradition, a sweet exclamation point at the end of their meal. The bell above the door chimed again, signaling another arrival to the busy restaurant. Neither Lily nor her mother looked up, absorbed in their conversation about a documentary they had watched earlier in the week about marine life. Little did they know that the person who had just walked through the dew, or would change the course of their evening entirely. The waitress returned with 2 chocolate milkshakes, each topped with a swirl of whipped cream and a bright red cherry. Lily's eyes lit up at the sight of her favorite treat. The glass was frosty, beads of condensation rolling down the sides like tiny rivers. 2 chocolate milkshakes, the waitress announced, placing them carefully on the table, made with extra chocolate syrup just the way you like them. Lily smiled her thanks, her hand moving toward the glass with focused determination. She had learned through years of practice how to best manage tasks that others took for granted. For Lily, each movement required thought and intention, a silent calculation of muscle and motion. The group at the nearby table had grown louder with each passing minute. Their drinks kept coming, and with each round their laughter became more boisterous, their voices less restrained. One of the young men, tall with spiky blonde hair and wearing a button-up shirt that still bore the creases from its packaging, kept glancing over at Lily. "Hey, check this out," he said to his friends, just loud enough for his voice to carry to surrounding tables. He made an exaggerated jerking motion with his arm, sloshing his drink slightly. The others at his table laughed, though one of the young women looked uncomfortable, her smile not reaching her eyes. Lily pretended not to notice as she focused on her milkshake, carefully guiding the straw to her lips. Her mother's face had hardened, the earlier warmth replaced by a protective vigilance. "These milkshakes are even better than last week," her mother said, trying to maintain their bubble of normalcy. "I think they might have changed their chocolate syrup brand." Lily nodded, determined to enjoy their special time. "It's a richer," she agreed, savoring the sweet cold drink. The spiky-haired young man was not deterred by their attempt to ignore him. He nudged his friend, a stocky guy in a polo shirt, and spoke in a deliberately loud whisper. "Dude, I think I'm developing some kind of condition. My hand keeps doing this." He made another jerking motion, more pronounced this time. His friend laughed and joined in, adding a twisted facial expression that bore no actual resemblance to Lily's appearance but was clearly meant to mock her. A few tables away, an older man frowned at their behavior but said nothing. The waitress passing by with a tray of food noticed the mockery, hesitated but continued toward another table. The restaurant manager stood by the register, typing something into the computer, either oblivious to or choosing to ignore the situation. Lily's mother set down her spoon with a deliberate calm that belied the storm brewing behind her eyes. "Should we say something?" she asked Lily quietly. Lily shook her head. "Not worth it," she managed, though the hurt was evident in her eyes. Years of therapy, both physical and emotional, had taught her to pick her battles. Some days she fought back against the stares and whispers. Today she just wanted to finish her milkshake in peace. The blonde woman in the group, the one who had seemed uncomfortable, finally spoke up. "Alex, knock it off. You're being a jerk." Alex, the spiky-haired instigator, rolled his eyes. "Oh, come on, Kelly, I'm just having a little fun. It's not like she can hear me." "I think she can hear you just fine," Kelly replied, her cheeks flushing with embarrassment. "And so can everyone else." For a moment, a silent tension hung over their table. Then another member of their group, desperate to break the awkwardness, launched into a story about a party from the previous weekend, and Kelly's objection was forgotten. Lily took another sip of her milkshake, but the sweetness had diminished somehow. Her mother reached across the table and squeezed her hand. "We can go if you want," she offered. "No," Lily replied firmly. She wouldn't let them win, wouldn't let them drive her away from one of her favorite places. "I'm enjoying my milkshake." Her mother nodded with pride. Lily's stubbornness had always been one of her greatest strengths. It had gotten her through countless physical therapy sessions, through surgeries and recoveries, through school days and social situations that would have broken a lesser spirit. The mockery continued, becoming less subtle with each passing minute. Alex had now enlisted 2 more of his friends in the game, and they took turns imitating what they imagined to be Lily's movements. Their cruelty was made worse by their complete ignorance. They weren't even mocking her actual condition, but rather some cartoonish idea of disability they had constructed in their minds. Other diners had begun to notice. An elderly couple at a nearby booth exchanged concerned glances. A family with young children moved their focus to their own table, the parents clearly trying to shield their kids from witnessing such behavior. The waitress who had been serving Lily and her mother hovered nearby, refilling water glasses that didn't need refilling, her discomfort evident, yet no one spoke up. No one intervened. It was the familiar silence of bystanders, people who recognized wrong but remained trapped in the paralyzing fear of involvement. Lily focused on her breathing, a technique her therapist had taught her for dealing with stressful situations. In through the nose for 4 counts, hold for 7, out through the mouth for 8. The familiar rhythm helped center her thoughts away from the jeering table. "Remember when we went to the aquarium last month?" her mother asked, deliberately changing the subject. "Those jellyfish were amazing, the way they glowed in the dark water." Lily smiled at the memory. "They looked like they were dancing," she said, her words flowing more easily as she relaxed into the conversation. "With no effort at all." "That's exactly what I thought too," her mother replied. "We should go back soon. I heard they've added a new octopus exhibit." For a few precious minutes they managed to reclaim their evening, discussing plans for future outings and a book they were both reading. But reality crashed back when a loud voice from the group's table cut through their conversation. "Hey, I think she's trying to talk," Alex said, his voice slurred slightly from alcohol. "What's that?" "What are you saying?" He contorted his face, making exaggerated movements with his mouth. His friend in the polo shirt laughed so hard he nearly fell out of his chair. "Dude, stop, I'm gonna pee myself," he wheezed. Something shifted in the restaurant's atmosphere. The background music seemed to fade. The clinking of silverware grew distant and a heavy silence fell over the surrounding tables. The cruelty had crossed a line that even the most conflict-avoidant bystanders recognized. The restaurant manager finally looked up from his computer, his face hardening as he surveyed the scene. He took a step toward their table but hesitated, perhaps calculating the potential business impact of confronting a group of paying customers. Lily's mother's hands trembled slightly as she set down her spoon. Lily had rarely seen her mother truly angry. Frustrated, yes, tired, certainly, but seldom enraged. Now a dangerous calm had settled over her features, the kind that preceded storms. "Lily," she said quietly, "I think I need to say something to those people." Before Lily could respond, Alex stood up, wobbling slightly. "I'm going to the bathroom," he announced to his friends, then made a show of walking past Lily's table with an exaggerated, stumbling gait that was meant to mimic her movement. Lily felt tears pricking at the corners of her eyes. She blinked rapidly, determined not to cry, not to give him the satisfaction of seeing how deeply his cruelty cut, but the tears came anyway, one escaping to trail slowly down her cheek. Her mother half rose from her seat. A decade of pent-up fury at every thoughtless stare, every whispered comment, every moment of unnecessary hardship her daughter had endured, now focused on this one ignorant young man. The restaurant had gone unnaturally quiet. Even the kitchen sounds seemed to have dimmed, as if the entire building was holding its breath, waiting. The manager finally made his decision and started toward their table, his face set in professional disapproval. But before he could take more than 3 steps, the front door of the diner opened. The bell above it jangled, bright and incongruous in the tense atmosphere. A cold draft swept through the room, carrying with it the faint scent of leather and motor oil. Every head turned toward the entrance. A man stood in the doorway, his massive frame nearly filling it completely. He wore a black leather vest covered in patches over a faded gray t-shirt, jeans worn white at the stress points, and heavy boots that had clearly seen thousands of miles of road. His beard was salt and pepper, more salt than pepper, and reached nearly to the middle of his chest. Tattoos covered his forearms, disappearing under his shirt sleeves, but it was the patches on his vest that drew everyone's attention. The distinctive Death's Head insignia of the Hells Angels Motorcycle Club was prominently displayed, along with various other patches whose meanings were known only to those in the Brotherhood. The man stood motionless for a moment, his eyes scanning the restaurant from behind small, rectangular glasses that seemed almost delicate on his weathered face. His gaze settled briefly on Lily and her mother, then moved to Alex, who had frozen mid-mockery and was now staring open-mouthed at the newcomer. Without a word, the biker stepped fully into the restaurant, letting the door swing shut behind him with a definitive click that seemed to echo in the silence. No one moved. No one spoke. The evening had just taken an unexpected turn. The biker made his way to the counter with heavy, measured steps. His boots made a solid sound against the linoleum floor, like distant thunder approaching. The young server behind the counter straightened her posture, a flicker of nervousness crossing her face before she managed a professional smile. "Evening," the biker said, his voice surprisingly soft despite his imposing presence. "Coffee black, please. And whatever pie you recommend." "Yes, sir," the server replied, relief evident in her voice. "The apple pie is fresh today." "Apple sounds perfect," he said with a nod. While waiting for his order, the biker turned slightly, leaning his back against the counter. His eyes, sharp and observant beneath bushy eyebrows, took in the restaurant scene. He noticed the manager's tense stance, the uncomfortable expressions on nearby diners' faces, and the tear tracks on Lily's cheeks. Alex had returned to his table but remained standing, apparently forgetting his initial bathroom destination. He whispered something to his friends, and they all stole glances at the newcomer, their earlier bravado diminished by his presence. "Here you go, sir," the server said, placing a steaming mug of coffee and a generous slice of pie on the counter. The biker nodded his thanks. Then, rather than sitting at the counter or taking a table alone, He did something unexpected. He picked up his coffee and pie and walked directly toward Lily and her mother. "Evening, ladies," he said, stopping at their table. "Mind if I join you? Counter's a bit uncomfortable for my old back these days." Lily's mother blinked in surprise, then glanced at Lily, who gave a small nod. "Of course," her mother said, gesturing to the empty side of their booth. "Please. Appreciate it," he said, sliding into the seat. He extended a weathered hand across the table. "Name's Tom Wilson." "I'm Diane," Lily's mother replied, shaking his hand. "And this is my daughter, Lily." Tom turned to Lily with a genuine smile, his eyes crinkling at the corners. "Nice to meet you, Lily," he said, offering his hand to her as well. Lily concentrated, her movements deliberate as she extended her hand to meet his. Her grip was uneven, but Tom didn't seem to notice or mind. He shook her hand just as he had her mother's, with simple respect. At the nearby table, Alex and his friends had gone quiet, watching the interaction with undisguised curiosity. "That chocolate shake looks good," Tom commented, nodding toward Lily's glass. "This place known for their desserts?" "The milkshakes are the best in town," Lily replied, her words coming carefully but clearly. Tom nodded thoughtfully, as if she had shared an important piece of wisdom. "I'll have to try one next time, though I'm pretty committed to this apple pie at the moment." He took a bite of the pie and made an appreciative sound. Definitely made the right choice. There was something about Tom's manner, the way he spoke, directly to Lily without any hint of discomfort or condescension, that began to ease the tension that had built up in the restaurant. Nearby diners returned to their own conversations, though many still cast curious glances toward the unusual trio. "So," Tom said, stirring his coffee, "you two come here often?" "Every Friday," Diane replied. "It's our tradition," Tom nodded. "Traditions are important. My daughter and I had a similar one when she was growing up. Every Sunday, rain or shine, we'd go for ice cream after I finished my shift." "Your daughter?" Diane asked, surprise evident in her voice. Tom smiled, reaching into his back pocket for his wallet. He flipped it open to reveal a photo of a young woman with almond-shaped eyes and a brilliant smile, wearing a graduation cap and gown. "That's my girl, Katie. This was taken last spring when she graduated from community college." He handed the wallet to Lily, who studied the photo with interest. "She's beautiful," Lily said. "Takes after her mother," Tom replied with a soft smile. "Smart as a whip, too. Works at a daycare center now. Kids love her." "She has Down syndrome?" Diane asked quietly, recognizing the distinctive features in the photograph. Tom nodded, taking back his wallet. "Yep, best thing that ever happened to me, that girl. Taught me more about courage than 20 years on the road ever could." His voice carried easily in the restaurant, and though he wasn't speaking particularly loudly, his words reached the nearby tables, including the one where Alex and his friends sat in uncomfortable silence. "What about you, Lily?" Tom asked, turning his full attention to her. "What do you like to do?" Lily took her time responding, and Tom waited patiently, showing no signs of discomfort with the silence. "I love our reading," she finally said, "and I'm learning to play the keyboard." "A musician?" Tom exclaimed with genuine interest. "Any particular style you enjoy?" As Lily began to explain her fascination with classical music, something remarkable happened around them. The tension that had filled the restaurant just minutes earlier began to dissipate. The manager relaxed his stance. The waitress who had been hovering anxiously moved on to other tables. Even Alex and his friends seemed deflated, their earlier mockery exposed for what it was by the simple, respectful conversation happening just a few feet away. "I used to play a bit of guitar myself," Tom was saying. "Nothing fancy, just enough to annoy my writing buddies around the campfire." This drew a laugh from Lily, a bright sound that seemed to further lighten the atmosphere. Tom took a sip of his coffee, then casually glanced over at Alex's table. His expression didn't change, but something in his eyes, a steady, knowing look, made Alex shift uncomfortably in his seat. "You know," Tom said, returning his attention to Lily and Diane, "my daughter Katie faced her share of unkind people over the years." He said this matter-of-factly, without anger or accusation in his voice. "Some folks just don't know any better. Or maybe they never learned how to be decent human beings." He cut another piece of pie with the side of his fork. "But Katie, she always said something that stuck with me. She said, 'Dad, their problem isn't with me. Their problem is with themselves.'" Tom's voice remained conversational, but it carried. Took me a while to understand what she meant. I'm not always the quickest study. He tapped his temple with a scarred finger. But eventually I figured it out. People who need to tear others down, they're just trying to make themselves feel bigger. Problem is, it never works. At the next table, Alex stared down at his drink, his face flushed. My Katie, she never let those people stop her from living her life. Tom continued, smiling at Lily. Sounds like you don't either. I try not to, Lily replied. That takes real strength, Tom said with a nod. More strength than most people understand. The blonde woman at Alex's table, Kelly, suddenly stood up. I'm going to head out, she announced to her friends. I have an early class tomorrow. Before leaving, she stopped by Lily's table. I just wanted to say, I'm sorry about my friends. They can be real jerks sometimes. She glanced at Tom, then back to Lily. Your milkshake looks amazing. Maybe I'll try one next time I'm here. You should, Lily told her. They're worth it. Kelly smiled, then walked out, leaving her friends looking even more uncomfortable. Tom finished his pie and took a final sip of coffee. This was nice, he said. Been on the road all day, heading back from a charity ride up north. It's good to share a table with friendly faces. What kind of charity ride? Diane asked. My club organizes it every year, Tom explained. We raise money for the children's hospital. Started doing it after Katie had heart surgery there when she was 5. Those doctors and nurses, they treated her like she was their own kid. Never forgot that. As Tom spoke about the charity ride, other diners began to see the patches on his vest in a different light. The Hell's Angel insignia, which had initially caused tension, now seemed to represent something unexpected, a community that cared, that gave back, that valued family. The manager approached their table, coffee pot in hand. Refill, sir? He offered Tom. No thanks, Tom replied. Need to get back on the road soon. But I appreciate it. The manager hesitated. Your meal is on the house tonight, he said. Thank you for... Well, just thank you. Tom shook his head. No need for that. I enjoy paying my way. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a $20 bill, placing it under his empty coffee cup. But I appreciate the thought. Alex suddenly appeared at their table, his earlier confidence completely evaporated. He avoided looking directly at Lily or Tom. I wanted to apologize, he said to the table in general, for how I was acting. It was stupid and, yeah, I'm sorry. Tom looked at him steadily. I'm not the one who needs to hear that, son. Alex finally met Lily's eyes. I'm sorry, he repeated, his voice barely above a whisper. There's no excuse. Lily studied his face for a moment, then nodded. Apology accepted, she said simply. As Alex walked back to his table to pay his bill, Tom turned to Lily with a look of genuine admiration. Now that, he said quietly, is real strength. Tom glanced at his watch, a chunky timepiece with a worn leather band that had seen its share of miles. I should probably get going soon, he said, but I'm enjoying the company too much to rush off. Lily smiled at the compliment. It wasn't the practiced, pitying smile she often received from strangers, but a genuine acknowledgement of her as a person worth spending time with. We're enjoying your company, too, Diane said, warmth in her voice. It's not often we meet someone who... She paused, searching for the right words. Who gets it? Tom offered. Yes, Diane nodded. Exactly that. Outside the restaurant windows, the sky had darkened completely. Street lights cast pools of yellow glow on the sidewalk, and occasional headlights swept past as cars drove by. The diner had settled into its evening rhythm, the earlier tension now replaced by the normal sounds of conversation and clinking silverware. You mentioned your daughter plays keyboard, Tom said to Lily. My Katie tried that for a while. Her hands are a bit small, so she switched to ukulele. Now she plays at the daycare where she works. The kids follow her around like she's the Pied Piper. Lily's face lit up. I'd like to hear her play sometime. Well now, Tom said, stroking his beard thoughtfully. We do have a community talent show coming up next month. Katie's performing, and the proceeds go to the children's hospital. He reached into his vest pocket and pulled out a slightly bent business card. That's got my number on it. If you two are interested in coming, I'd be happy to save you seats. Diane took the card, studying it with surprise. It was simple and professional. Tom Wilson, custom motorcycle repair, with a phone number and email address. You fix bikes? She asked. Tom nodded. Been doing it for 30 years now. Started in my garage, now I've got a small shop on Pine Street. Nothing fancy, but it pays the bills. He smiled. And funds Katie's ukulele collection. That girl has 15 of them now, all different colors. Lily laughed at this, the sound drawing smiles from nearby diners who had been covertly following their conversation. Do you still ride with... Diane gestured subtly to the patches on his vest. The club? Tom finished for her. Yes, ma'am. 27 years now. We're not quite what the movies make us out to be, though. He chuckled. Most of us are getting too old for much trouble these days. More likely to be comparing cholesterol medication than anything else. This drew another laugh from Lily, which seemed to please Tom. The club's been good to me and Katie, he continued. When my wife passed away, they stepped up, helped me figure out how to braid Katie's hair for school, took turns bringing dinner over, made sure I had someone to watch her when I had to work late. His weathered face softened at the memory. Found out who your real family is during times like that. The remaining friends at Alex's table had paid their bill and were preparing to leave. They moved toward the exit with downcast eyes, careful to give Tom a wide berth as they passed. You know, Tom said, watching them go. Those kids remind me a bit of myself at that age. Diane raised an eyebrow. Really? Tom nodded, a hint of sadness crossing his face. I wasn't always the person I am now. Before Katie was born, well, let's just say I had a lot of growing up to do. He took a sip of water. I thought being tough meant making others feel small. Took a tiny baby with an extra chromosome to show me what real strength looks like. He turned to Lily. That's why I wanted to come sit with you two. Saw something in you that reminded me of my Katie. That same quiet strength. Lily straightened slightly in her seat at these words. Throughout her life, many words had been used to describe her. Brave, challenged, special, but strong was rarely among them. Yet here was this imposing man with his leather vest and tattoos, seeing in her what she had always felt but others had often missed. Thank you, she said simply. The restaurant manager approached their table again, this time with a small box in hand. I thought you might want to take a slice of pie for the road, he said to Tom. And, if you don't mind my saying so, we'd be honored to have you stop by any time you're passing through. Tom accepted the box with a nod of thanks. Kind of you. Might take you up on that. He glanced at Lily and Diane. Especially on Fridays, I'm guessing? Lily nodded, a smile spreading across her face. As the manager returned to his station, an elderly couple from a nearby table stopped as they were leaving. Excuse me, the woman said, her silver hair neatly pinned back, but I just wanted to say how much I admire your daughter. She spoke to Diane but smiled warmly at Lily. My sister has cerebral palsy, and she never had the opportunities young people have today. It's wonderful to see. Thank you, Diane replied, visibly moved by the unexpected comment. The elderly woman's husband, a tall man with stooped shoulders and kind eyes, nodded in agreement. And thank you, he said to Tom, extending his hand, for your service. Tom looked momentarily confused, then understanding dawned on his face as he shook the man's hand. I appreciate the thought, sir, but I'm not a veteran. Not military service, the old man clarified, gesturing discreetly toward the charity ride patches on Tom's vest. Community service. My grandson was at that children's hospital last year. Had a team of bikers show up at Christmas with toys. Made a world of difference to those kids. Tom's expression softened. That's our annual toy run. Been doing it for 15 years now. The elderly couple moved on with warm goodbyes, and Tom shook his head with a bemused expression. Would you look at that, he said quietly. Never thought I'd see the day when someone would be thanking me for wearing these patches. Times change, I guess. Or maybe, Diane suggested, people just needed to see the person behind them. Tom considered this with a thoughtful nod. A young waitress, not the one who had been serving them, approached the table somewhat hesitantly. She was barely out of her teens, with a spray of freckles across her nose and a nervous energy about her. I'm sorry to interrupt, she said, but I heard you talking about the children's hospital. She twisted her hands in her apron. My little brother had surgery there last month. They were amazing with him. Glad to hear it, Tom said with a genuine smile. They're good people. The waitress nodded eagerly. They are, and I was wondering about that charity ride you mentioned. I'd like to help somehow if I could. Tom's eyes crinkled warmly. We're always looking for volunteers. Here, He pulled another business card from his vest. "Email me and I'll put you in touch with our coordinator." The young woman took the card as if it were made of gold.
Thank you.
"I definitely will." She hurried back to her station, already showing the card to another server. "Look at you," Diane said with a smile. "Recruiting right here in the diner." Tom chuckled. Club's public relations officer would be proud. He checked his watch again. "I should really get back on the road. Got a few more miles to cover tonight." As he prepared to leave, the restaurant door opened and a police officer walked in. The officer, a woman with a no-nonsense demeanor and a tight bun beneath her cap, scanned the restaurant before approaching the counter. The manager spoke to her briefly, gesturing subtly toward Tom. Lily tensed slightly, having witnessed how law enforcement sometimes interacted with bikers. Her mother reached over and squeezed her hand reassuringly. To everyone's surprise, the officer walked directly to their table and addressed Tom with a respectful nod. "Mr. Wilson, thought that was your bike outside. Haven't seen you around in a while." Tom stood and extended his hand. "Officer Chen, good to see you. Been busy with the shop?" "I bet," she replied, shaking his hand firmly. "Dad's Harley is running better than ever since you worked on it. He won't stop talking about it. Glad to hear it. Your dad takes good care of that classic." Officer Chen glanced at Lily and Diane. "Sorry to interrupt your dinner. Just wanted to say hello." "Not a problem," Diane assured her. "We were just finishing up." The officer nodded. "You heading home tonight, Mr. Wilson, or still on the road?" "Got about 40 miles to go," Tom replied. "Should be home before midnight. Drive safe." Officer Chen tapped 2 fingers to her temple in a casual salute. "And tell Katie that Mom's book club loved her recommendation last month. Big hit." "Will do," Tom promised with a smile. As the officer walked away to order her coffee, Diane looked at Tom with raised eyebrows. "Small town," he explained with a shrug. "Officer Chen's dad and I go way back. And Katie joins their family book club sometimes." He chuckled. "Life's funny that way. Full of connections you'd never expect." Lily nodded thoughtfully. "Like us meeting you tonight." "Exactly like that," Tom agreed. He reached into his back pocket and took out his wallet again, but this time withdrew a small object and placed it on the table between them. It was a little silver bell on a keychain, about the size of a quarter, with intricate engravings around its surface. "What's this?" Lily asked, picking it up carefully. "We call it a guardian bell," Tom explained. "Old tradition among riders. Supposed to protect you on the road." He gestured to his vest. "Most of us have one attached to our bikes. But I've got a few extras and I'd like you to have this one, Lily." Lily held the small bell in her palm, feeling its weight, running her finger over the detailed patterns. "It's beautiful," she said. "The tradition says it's only lucky if it's given to you by someone else," Tom continued. "And it's supposed to catch any bad road spirits in its hollow." Diane watched her daughter examining the gift, her eyes misty. "That's very kind of you, Tom. Just paying forward what others have done for me and Katie," he replied, rising from the table. "Speaking of which, I should call her to let her know I'm on my way home." As Tom prepared to leave, something remarkable happened. Throughout the restaurant, people who had been watching the interaction unfold over the last hour began to nod or smile in his direction. The barrier that had existed when he first walked in, the wariness his patches had initially caused, had completely dissolved. They no longer saw just the intimidating biker, but the father, the community volunteer, the man who had shown kindness to a young girl when others had shown cruelty. Tom seemed to notice the shift, a look of quiet wonder crossing his weathered face. He turned back to Lily one last time. "Remember," he said softly, "real strength isn't about making noise or drawing attention. It's about staying true to yourself when the world tries to make you someone else." Lily nodded, clutching the small silver bell in her hand. "I'll remember." Tom walked Lily and her mother to their car, the night air cool and fresh after the warmth of the diner. Stars peppered the sky above them, and a half-moon cast enough light to illuminate the parking lot. Tom's motorcycle, a classic Harley-Davidson with weathered saddlebags and a worn leather seat, stood near the entrance, its chrome gleaming under the streetlights. "That's a beautiful bike," Lily commented, the guardian bell still clutched in her hand. Tom ran his hand affectionately over the handlebars. "She's been with me for 20 years. Not the fastest or the newest, but reliable. Gets me where I need to go." As they reached Diane's modest sedan, Tom extended his hand once more. "It was a genuine pleasure meeting you both," he said. "Don't forget about that talent show. Katie would love to meet you, Lily." "We'll be there," Diane promised, taking his hand. "And thank you for saying everything." Tom waved away her thanks. "Just happened to be in the right place at the right time." "I don't believe in coincidences like that," Diane replied with a knowing smile. After saying their goodbyes, Tom walked back to his motorcycle. Lily watched from the passenger seat as he secured his helmet, started the engine with a low rumble, and pulled out of the parking lot, raising one hand in a final farewell. "What an extraordinary person," Diane said as she started the car. Lily nodded, opening her palm to look at the small silver bell. The moonlight caught its surface, making the engraving stand out against the metal. "He saw me," she said simply. "Really saw me." The drive home was quiet, both of them processing the evening's events. What had begun as an ordeal had transformed into something unexpected and meaningful. The guardian bell made a soft tinkling sound as Lily gently shook it, filling the car with its delicate music. "I think I'll put this on my keychain," she decided. "Perfect," her mother agreed. "A reminder of tonight." "A reminder of strength," Lily corrected. 3 weeks passed. Friday evening arrived once again, and with it, their traditional trip to Mike's diner. As Diane pulled into the parking lot, Lily noticed something different. "Mom, look," she said, pointing toward the entrance. A motorcycle was parked in what had become its usual spot, the same weathered Harley they had seen 3 Fridays in a row now. Tom had made good on his comment about joining them for their weekly tradition, becoming a regular fixture at their table. Inside, the restaurant had undergone sequel. BTL changes. The hostess greeted them with a warm smile, no longer seating them at their usual booth but at your table with Tom. The waitress knew their orders by heart: a chocolate milkshake for Lily, coffee for Tom, and tea for Diane. But the most significant change wasn't in the restaurant itself but in how people responded to Lily. The stares hadn't disappeared completely. That would be asking too much of human nature, but they had shifted from curiosity or discomfort to something more like recognition. Tom was already seated, his leather vest hanging on a hook beside the booth, revealing a faded black t-shirt with his motorcycle shop's logo. He stood when he saw them approaching. "There they are," he said with a smile. "Was beginning to think you'd stood me up." "Traffic," Diane explained, sliding into the booth. "How are you, Tom?" "Can't complain," he replied, sitting down across from them. "Shop's busy, which is good for business but hard on these old bones." Lily set her small backpack on the seat beside her and carefully unzipped it. "I brought something to show you," she said, pulling out a folder. Inside were printed photos of a keyboard set up in the corner of their living room, along with sheet music covered in Lily's neat handwriting. "You've been practicing," Tom observed, examining the photos with genuine interest. Lily nodded. "Every day, I'm working on a song for the talent show." Tom looked up in surprise. "You're going to perform?" "If that's okay," Lily said, suddenly uncertain. "Okay? It's fantastic," Tom exclaimed, his weathered face breaking into a wide grin. "Katie will be thrilled. She's been asking when she'd get to meet you." Their meals arrived: Tom's usual burger, Diane's salad, and Lily's chicken sandwich, all served without them having to order. The waitress, Jenny, had been serving them for the past 3 weeks and had learned their preferences. "How's your brother doing?" Tom asked her, referring to the young man who had undergone surgery at the children's hospital. "Much better," Jenny replied with a smile. "He's back in school this week, and he's really looking forward to meeting you at the volunteer orientation next month." After Jenny left, Tom leaned forward conspiratorially. "The charity ride committee has been overwhelmed with volunteer applications since I started mentioning it around town. Might need to get a bigger meeting room." As they ate, Lily noticed a familiar face enter the restaurant: Alex, the young man who had mocked her that first night. He was alone this time, dressed in the uniform of a local grocery store, looking tired after what was probably a long shift. When he spotted Lily, he hesitated, then approached their table. "Hi," he said awkwardly. I just wanted to say hello." Tom nodded to him. "Evening. How's the new job?" "It's going well, thank you, sir." Alex had started addressing Tom as sir from their second encounter, and it had stuck. "Actually, I wanted to tell you both that I signed up to volunteer at the children's hospital. Had my orientation last week." Lily smiled at him. That's wonderful. Yeah, well, Alex shuffled his feet. Something you said that night stuck with me, he said to Tom. About making yourself bigger by putting others down. Made me think about some things. Tom nodded, saying nothing but clearly pleased. Anyway, Alex continued, I should let you enjoy your dinner. Have a good night. As he walked away to a small table in the corner, Diane shook her head in amazement. You've started quite a chain reaction in this town, Tom Wilson. Tom chuckled. Just planted a few seeds. People are generally good if you give them a chance to be. The community center was packed for the talent show. Every seat was filled, and people stood along the walls, all there to support the Children's Hospital fundraiser. Backstage, Lily sat at a portable keyboard, running through her piece one last time. Her hands trembled slightly, but not from her cerebral palsy, from the natural nervousness of performing in public for the first time. A young woman with Down syndrome approached, carrying a brightly colored ukulele. Her smile was warm and immediate. You must be Lily, she said, extending her hand. I'm Katie. Dad's told me so much about you. Lily shook her hand, immediately feeling at ease with Tom's daughter. It's really nice to meet you. I love your ukulele. Thanks. It's my newest one. Teal is my favorite color. Katie sat down next to Lily. Are you nervous? I always get butterflies before performing. Terrified, Lily admitted. Me too. But Dad says that's how you know it matters to you. Katie strummed a chord on her ukulele. Want to know a secret? Sometimes we mess up, and guess what happens? What? The world keeps spinning, Katie said with a grin. And people clap anyway. This drew a laugh from Lily, easing some of her tension. We're on after each other, Katie continued.
Want to make it a duet?
I can play along with your keyboard piece if you show me the chords. 20 minutes later, Lily found herself on stage, the bright lights making it difficult to see the audience. But she could make out her mother in the front row and Tom beside her, his large frame unmistakable even in the dimness. She began to play, her fingers finding the keys with practiced precision. The piece she had chosen was simple but beautiful, Clair de Lune by Debussy, modified slightly to accommodate her hand movements. And then, right on cue, Katie joined in with gentle ukulele chords that complemented the piano notes perfectly. They hadn't rehearsed together before that night, but something magical happened on that stage. Two young women, each with their own challenges, creating something beautiful through their combined talents. When the final notes faded, there was a moment of silence. Then the audience erupted in applause, people rising to their feet in appreciation. Lily looked out at the crowd, at her mother wiping tears from her eyes, at Tom standing tall and proud, his weathered hands clapping with enthusiasm. In that moment, with the applause washing over her, Lily thought about how much had changed since that Friday night 3 months ago. One small act of kindness had created ripples that continued to spread outward, touching lives in ways no one could have predicted. After the show, as people gathered in the community center lobby, Diane overheard a conversation between two women she didn't recognize. Which one was your favorite? One asked the other. The keyboard and ukulele duet, her friend replied without hesitation. There was something so genuine about it. You could feel the joy. Later, as they prepared to leave, Katie handed Lily a small wrapped package. What's this? Lily asked, carefully opening it. Inside was a miniature teal ukulele keychain, small enough to hang alongside the guardian bell on her keys. Now you have 2 good luck charms, Katie explained. Dad gave you one, and this one's from me. Tom watched the exchange with a smile, his arm around his daughter's shoulders. Looks like you two are going to be fast friends. We already are, Katie declared with her characteristic directness. As they walked toward the parking lot together, Tom and Katie, Lily and her mother, Lily realized that the greatest gift from that difficult night wasn't the guardian bell or even the new friendship. It was the reminder that sometimes in the darkest moments, unexpected light finds its way in. And sometimes that light wears a leather vest.